The 76ers in free fall. What's going on there? The trade front. We also need to talk about a move the Pacers made. Plenty to get into on today's show. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the NBA Front Office Show. If you're not a subscriber yet to the YouTube channel, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Oh, and while you're at it, if you wouldn't mind, if it's not too much to ask, like this video as well. Keith Smith joining me as always. Keith, how are you doing? And we've got not a ton of topics for today, but some topics we can really sink our teeth into.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, you threw me off. You didn't start it with hello, everybody. Like, that's like your signature greeting, and that like threw me off. And I will say this, subscribing and liking the video, it's literally 2 clicks. Like, that's it. 2 clicks, 2 taps of a finger, whatever it may be. Just do it for us. Get us there. Did you see someone in our show from yesterday said, are you guys still wearing Halloween costumes if you hit 35,000? Which makes me laugh. Like, we'll just throw them on in the middle of December or something. Maybe.
It'll be Christmas outfits. We'll do
you better subscribe and watch every show, because maybe we will.
We should do, we should do ugly sweaters.
Oh, we could. Yeah.
That would be cool.
We always do our NBA Christmas. We'll have to do it a little different this year because I'm doing some traveling around Christmas this year. But we'll figure it out. We'll definitely have a Christmas themed show. We'll
make it happen.
Always have some fun with that. But yeah, topics today. First one, you want to start with the Sixers, because this is not a real fun story here coming out of Philly.
No, definitely not. And the intro, I'm just mixing it up, keeping everybody on their toes a little bit there. The 76ers, Keith, we've been saying for a while now that, hey, at the 76ers, yes, it's not good. Obviously, but their big three hasn't been playing, and they're in the East, and it's pretty forgiving. So they're going to be just fine. At what point do we cross that threshold and we say, maybe it's not going to be just fine? I mean, good Lord, look at this. The banner is cutting. That's how low the 76ers are. The banner is cutting them off at the bottom of the screen here. They're 2-11 on the season now. Like, is this? And they reportedly held a team meeting to air out their grievances and discuss things. Is it time? Is it time to be worried about the 76ers?
Oh, yeah, we're definitely in a worry time now. 13 games into the season. Normally we say the 20-game mark is where we really start to, all right, what are these teams? What are we thinking about them and that? But when you're 2-11, that's brutal. They are 12 games out of first place already. Like, forget that. That's gone. Like, you're not making that up. And like, it is just bonkers that's where we're sitting today with them. They're the reason they're worst in the East. They haven't played Washington yet, but you go to conference record, well, they're tied there. So then you go to division record, and Washington 2-3 and Philly's 0-2. So that's why they land out there. I don't know that they're necessarily worse than Washington, but Washington is bad by design. They're playing 3 rookies and a second-year guy and all these young players. Philly is not, they're not, they're just bad. Now, there's been a lot of injuries and all that stuff, but boy, that game against Miami was ugly yesterday.
And then on top of that, like, Joel Embiid has now played in 3 games. He's averaging 32% from the field. Now, you could just say, well, you know what? It's a bad shooting slump. It happens. This happens to players. Right, rusty, all that kind of stuff. But 6.3 rebounds. That's down from 11 last season. Down from 11. I mean, his rebounds have been nearly cut in half. Assists are down. Blocks are way down. He's averaging less than 15 points and a terrible efficiency. He has never averaged less than 20 points. Never averaged less than. He's at 14.7 points per game right now. I'm hoping that this is it's rust. He's not 100%. And at some point in the season, he's going to hit 100% because we know he's much, much better than this. But if Joel Embiid is not Joel Embiid, then this becomes for real very, very quickly for the 76ers in terms of how much trouble they're actually in. If Joel Embiid goes back to being MVP level Joel Embiid, and we could talk about Paul George too, certainly. He's not been fantastic. But If those guys become what they have historically been, then I still believe, and they can be on the court, which is a big if there, but then I think the 76ers will be okay. But I'm starting to wonder, like, is there something more here than just rust and just he's a little bit out of shape, a little banged up or whatever with Joel Embiid? Is this, are we maybe seeing a step back? And if so, that's a big, big problem for the Sixers.
100%. And there's a lot to unpack there, right? So let's start with Embiid. Last year, like you said, we've never seen him this like poor of play. Last season, he did a Wilt Chamberlain thing, averaged more points than minutes played. That's it. It's him and Wilt, and that's it for guys who, I mean, I'm sure there's other guys who played 1 minute and averaged 2 points or something ridiculous like that. But that's it. Like when you're on a list and it's you and Wilt, okay, well, there you go. Anything that you accomplish single season scoring wise. But here's the challenge. Look at those games played throughout really his entire career. His high watermark is 68 games 4 seasons ago. What are we to do with this? And that's where I'll go into the next thing. Embiid and Paul George, a lot of times you would look at it and say, okay, well, they missed a lot of time, but now they're healthy, they're back, and off we go. But with both of those guys, it feels like we're on when are they going out again next? Yeah. How long are they going to stay healthy for? Tyrese Maxey, I believe he'll get back, and he'll be back because we've never seen him really deal with injuries. But George and Embiid, I don't know. Beyond Embiid, I want to write that one off to a little bit of, well, he's playing his way back. He's figuring it out. He's knocking the rust off. Paul George, to some extent, the same thing. But boy, he looks bad. He cannot make a shot right now. Yeah, there it is. 39% from the field and 29% from three.
And that's in 7 games.
Awful.
I mean, it's still not the biggest sample size, but that's a bigger sample size than Embiid. And it's Keith. I'm seeing I've been going through and scrolling through Sixers fans and different NBA fans and seeing kind of what the reaction is, because I knew we were going to talk about this. And so I did a quick kind of glance at what a lot of people are saying about this. And there's already people saying, well, Paul George just took the money and now he's good. He got over $200 million on his contract. And again, this is fan criticism. I'm not expecting this to all be an accurate take or anything, but that's already a
rational take.
Exactly. But we know how unforgiving Philadelphia can be, right? It's a very different environment than the Clippers when the spotlight's on the Lakers and you get to just kind of do your thing and you're a Clipper. It's a bigger deal when you're a 76er, especially in that city. And already you're starting to hear them murmuring, some fans that, he just kind of took the money and now he's not going to provide bang for your buck. Is this going to end up a bad contract? Like, those fears are already starting to circulate.
Yeah, without a doubt. And then let's now go into the second half of kind of this topic, which was you get these. Almost every team has one of these every year where it's, we're X amount of time past the locker room and we are or past the game and the locker room still hasn't opened. Like, there's something going on. It feels like almost every good team goes through that, even some of the bad teams. Mm-hmm. Well, Philly had it last night. It was an hour after the game had ended. They were like, no, Nick Nurse hasn't talked. And usually the coach, it's generally within about 10 minutes of the final, the coach gets there. It might be a little longer if it's like a national TV game because they might want to talk to him on court every once in a while, but it's usually within 10 minutes. And then the players will start generally after that. And everybody does a little bit different. Some teams do it podium style, some do it with open locker room access. So just kind of depends. But anyway, Philly loses an hour after. They finally open up and Nick Nurse was like, hey, I'm not going to say we weren't doing something. He's like, we had a team meeting and it was players and coaches and everybody was expressing their thoughts and frustrations. Now, Shams Charania reports today what he's being told. And I almost said Shams Charania of The Athletic because that's like muscle memory.
Getting used to.
Like, it's going to take a little while. Shams Charania of ESPN reports that Tyrese Maxey called out Joel Embiid in front of the whole team. Is like, hey, you got to stop being late to everything. Yeah. Like, it's not good for any of us. It throws us all off. Players, coaches, the entire team. And then There was someone else that said the players asked Nick Nurse and staff, coach us really hard. And Nick Nurse and staff came back and said, we will, but then we need you guys to be committed, and we need you to be focused, and we need you to work really hard if we're going to do that. So could be a positive end result, right? Oftentimes these things do go that direction where like it leads to an increased focus. So we'll see. One other thing from last night's game, and this is a good sign. Joel Embiid in the fourth quarter, something clicked for him where it was like, all right, I'm not going out like this. And he started kind of playing like Joel Embiid again. He dove on the floor a couple times. He was really attacking the ball. It wasn't a great fourth quarter by any means. It was still pretty ugly. I think Miami outscored them 18-17 in the final period. So it wasn't like we're not writing in
not
the
beautiful
next
basketball.
Great epic of NBA history off it. But it was just good to see Embiid. You could see it almost was kind of like, all right, I'm gonna forget it, right? And he said he doesn't trust his knee yet. And that's his biggest thing. And you could kind of tell watching those first really 2 3/4 games. He was kind of lumbering up and down the court, didn't look really good, even for him, who at times doesn't look very good. He just looked a little bit better. So I'm going to take that. Maybe there's find a little bit of growing trust in that knee again.
Yeah, hopefully that's a sign of things to come for the 76ers, because like we said, there was, even in the East, at this point, you have to start being concerned. A 2-11, like they can certainly get themselves out of this. They will have opportunities to do it, and if they get their big three on the floor, I think they can still get back to being the team that we expected them to be. But now you got to worry. And if things, I guess here's the thing. After they hold this team meeting, if it doesn't turn around, that's a big red flag. If you have this big meeting and then things don't improve, then you're really, really in big trouble. And let me say this. I like that Tyrese Maxey is calling out. That tells you he's really stepping into that role, that he's calling out Joel Embiid. Just looking ahead here at the 76ers upcoming schedule. Now, we don't know. We talked about it yesterday, Ja Morant coming back. We don't know for sure, when exactly. He just said soon. But at Memphis, that's even without Ja Morant, Memphis has proven to be a challenging team. The Brooklyn Nets, okay, but then you get the Clippers, Houston. Like, if you don't get a win against Brooklyn, you could be that could be 4 more losses right there potentially, right? Like that's certainly you could win a game, you could win a few games there too, but if you don't win that game against Brooklyn, you could be in trouble. Now it lightens up a little bit. Detroit's been better than
Detroit and Charlotte are not the walkovers that they used to be.
But you'd rather see, I think I would put Houston a spot of above them in terms of difficulty,
for sure.
But
without a doubt.
But the potential is here. If the wheels are going to fall off, Keith, the wheels are really going to fall off, because you could see losses to Brooklyn, Detroit, Charlotte. If those things happen, then I think all hell breaks loose with the 76ers.
You get that
and that's
against Orlando, right?
Yes.
That's going to be tough. So
I'm
100% with you. I love what you called out about Maxey clearly growing into it. There was some wording in the language of Sham's article about those two guys are super close. So they haven't felt bad about calling each other out at times. But it's definitely there's work to be done in Philly, in quite a bit of it. So we'll see. On the plus side, Jared McCain, really, man, he's taken off, playing really, really well. I'm very curious to see what that looks like when Maxey gets back. How do you put the two of them in the same backcourt together? What's that going to look like? But we'll see. But to your point, can you pull up the standings again? Real quick, because 2-11, as you're pulling that up, that is 3 games out of the last play-in spot already. You're 3 games out of the final play-in spot already. That's crazy to be that position. And you're already, 4 games out of the 6th and final assured playoff spot. So that's you're lucky the rest of the East has been down. It hasn't pulled away from you further as you start off this year. Now, we don't get too worked up over that, but 3 games out in 4 weeks, you lost a game per week in the first 3 weeks. basically 4 games out of the playoffs, a game per week. Like that's tough.
And this is, yeah, they're behind it. They're in a tough spot, I think, right now with the 76ers. The good thing, the silver lining, the upside, they're 13 games into an 82 game season. There's a lot of basketball ahead of them. If they're still sitting here in February, then it's game over. But they've got enough time left to fix this. But they got to get going. They got to get going on it, and they got to get going on it sooner rather than later.
Yep.
All right, Keith, let's jump over to our next story. The Nets, Sam Amick had a piece for The Athletic today talking about the Nets and their trade efforts. Keith, I thought the most shocking thing to me was that not that the Nets are open for business. That was the phrase that Amick used, but that Cam Thomas is a guy that they could look to move on from, as well as perhaps we could throw in the shocking category Nick Claxton as well. 2 guys who are young enough to be part of their future. No, the Nets are willing to move those guys too, in addition to the usual names that we hear: Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Dennis Schroeder, Bojan Bogdanovic, guys like that. I looked at this, Keith, and I talked about this earlier today on the Basketball Bulletin. I thought, oh my gosh, the Nets are really set up to be the go-to team for any contending, no matter what you need. The Nets have it. You need a point guard, we've got it. You need a wing, we've got that. You want a big, we've got that. You want a high-scoring guy that can maybe come off the bench, maybe start, we've got that. Whatever it is that you need, the Nets have it. They're the Walmart shopping of the NBA trade market right now.
Even flip it. You want some salary relief? Get off a long-term deal. We can give you Ben Simmons. It is $40 million contract. So yeah, I'm totally with you. I hear you. The Cam Thomas one, interesting. It was noted. Thomas did not reach an agreement with the Nets on a contract extension, so he is eligible for restricted free agency this summer. As an aside, restricted free agents right now, it's still very early, but they look like they're going to really get squeezed hard this summer. That's always a thing. But the Nets are the only team that projects to have meaningful cap space next summer. So the Nets can look at Cam Thomas and be like, here's what we're offering. Either sign the qualifying offer and all the risks inherent with that, of that being a 1-year deal, or take what we have because no one else can make you a reasonable offer. But I just looked it up. This is almost a full circle moment with a new player for us on the history of the show. And people who've been watching from the beginning, remember, we had a lot of conversations about Colin Sexton and how we were like, he's not an empty stats scorer. Like, he's not out there scoring 25 on 35% shooting from the field and gunning. Cam Thomas is a gunner. Don't get me wrong, but he's an extremely efficient one. Cam Thomas right now through this season, 46% from the field, 39% from 3, 86% from the free throw line. That's really good. And he gets himself to the line. He is making shots in all different ways. It was interesting. I heard Danny LaRue reference this. Last year, he was actually a better pull-up shooter than he was this year. This year, he's doing a little bit better on catch-and-shoot stuff, which I think lends to he's getting more catch-and-shoots this year. He's not having to do quite as much all himself. But his numbers that's pretty good. Like, none of these things are screaming at me, where we've all seen the stat lines before for the guys who average big points, but do it just by chucking. Like, that's not Cam Thomas. So that one very much surprised me. I thought almost no matter what the Nets did over the next couple of years, there'd be a place in the organization for Cam Thomas. You get better guards. Great. He's an awesome third guard coming off your bench as a big time scoring 6-man type. You need scoring. Great. You have Cam Thomas if you go defenders and playmakers around him. Like, there are a lot of things. So yeah, but I love how you put it. Like, they're like walking into like a Walmart where it's like, hey, I need to get some milk, cereal, tires, and a dress shirt. All right, let's all meet at the checkout. Like, we're going to pick it all up here. Because there's just so many good players on that team that all on pretty good contracts too. I'm not going to suggest Simmons isn't wildly overpaid, but it's $40 million of expiring money. So if you want to get off some big time money, that's fine. What's that?
Is he the biggest expiring?
If he's not, he's got to be way up there.
He's
I
got to be.
probably just
Like,
in
I
this
mean, I
new
know
world
like
where
Jimmy has a player option and stuff, but like a
yeah, that
true
one's a little
expiring.
bigger. But yeah, pure expiring, yeah, without a doubt. I would say it's Simmons.
Okay. And Keith, you talked about the contract structures. Uh, I mean, look at this. Look at Nick Claxton and that declining
Yeah.
contract. Even I mean, Cam Johnson has that dip in his contract, but still, like these are
Mm-hmm.
even the long-term money, because right now teams are very reluctant to take on long-term money, but even the long-term money, you're like, oh, but that's cool. It's declining. Well, maybe we will go for that. Like this team could look so different. I mean, tomorrow, if they wanted to
Sure.
make a move. Now, I'm not saying they will. Usually
Yeah,
we don't
it'll
see
be
moves
another
made
move,
till
but
late December into January. Sometimes it's the week of the trade deadline that we see most moves really come together. But they've got so many different options here to trade and so many pieces that make sense to trade. And with the news today that Nick Claxton and Cam Thomas are in that group that are on the trade market, and like I said, you are not literally every team in the NBA could find a reason to trade with the Brooklyn Nets. And
yeah.
that's just going to give them endless possibilities.
Yeah, without a doubt. They also sneaky team if one of these second apron teams wanted to do like we're going to trade our one bigger salary guy to break it up into 2 or 3 players. Like the Nets would be a
Yeah.
great team for that, right? Like just let's say it was Claxton and Cam Johnson. Like that's $52 million.
Mhm.
Like great. We're going to send you a $52 million guy and we're going to fill a hole at center and on the wing if that's the direction you really wanted to go. And that's, that's great. And that, Nick Claxton, I just looked it up. 21.6 million in 27-28, 11.5% of the cap. That season, the non-taxpayer mid-level, so the big signing exception, projects to be about 17 million. So barely above the mid-level exception is where
And
that
he'll be what,
contract's
like
headed.
29 then? He'll still be in his
Yeah.
prime.
Yep. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, really, something else. I'm very, very curious to see what Sean Marks does
Yeah.
with this. And this might be a team where when we kind of dig out from underneath all of the moves they make, because I do think they're going to make several, we may be like, what is this roster that's left over? Because it could just be one of those mess where it's like, yeah, they have 7 centers because that's what came back. They
Right.
don't care, right? Like whatever, because we're basically starting all over. I would be, I would look at moving to. I don't think the Nets are in position as great as I think Cooper Flag and Ace Bailey and some of these other guys are going to be. They're in the draft. I don't know that they're lift your team from one of the worst to playoffs by themselves
Sure.
in a year. So I would be looking at like if I'm trading Simmons, yeah, you got a contract that runs 2, 3, 4 years. That's not so good. Give me the requisite draft picks and young talent along with it. I'm happy to take it on because this might be, more of like a 2-year or 3-year process of building this team back up. And why not, right? If that's how you move off of Simmons to eat a little bit more, yeah, sure. Go that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I was thinking. Is they can take their time with this. Not that they want to be down for too long or anything like that,
Sure.
but if they do this smart, if they do this the right way, you could wind up with a team that's really really good down the road. And like I said, this is why I was so thrilled for the Nets when they made the decision to move off of Mikal Bridges, because now they can fully move in this direction.
Yep.
And I think they could be one of those teams where 2-3 years from now, the draft comes up and we're like, wait, the Nets have that pick too? How'd they get
Yeah.
that? Oh my God, they're adding that guy to
Sure.
Cooper Flag and all the like, they could wind up being that team. And I think the future is now very, very bright for the Brooklyn Nets. And I'm really excited to see what they do. And Keith, I'll finish with this. I also think that because of the competitive nature, let's call it, I guess that's the word for, of the tank race. Competitive feels like a weird word to use with teams trying to get to the bottom, but they could also wind up being sellers earlier in the season than we typically see, because everybody knows what's available and all of that. And if the Nets really do want to make sure they get the best odds possible at getting a top pick, now again, we talked about it recently that the odds are flattened out, so it's not as crucial that you wind up with the worst record. But if somebody's going to make a move pre-trade deadline, like when we talk about maybe a move in December or something like that, the Nets seem like a team that could be primed to do something in that direction.
Yeah, I almost wonder too if we might see early movers just out of the idea of it's a little harder to make trades right now. So let's move early so then that way we've made our moves. And then we just live with whatever the fallout is on the backside of that. And I think because the league feels a lot more open as far as trying to win, you might have teams that say, hey, you know what? Let's go let's pull a Pacers, make our move early, get a guy early, and then we have an extra week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, whatever time it is, to really integrate that guy into our system and figure it out because it's really hard, right? We do the trade deadline. A week later, it's like the All-Star break. And then you come back, and then it's like a sprint of a month or ish to the end of the season, a month and a half ish. And there's just not a lot of time. Sometimes these teams are still figuring it out with guys, as you go, especially if you're the Cavs, if you make a move, the way they've gotten out to start, they might be like in mid-March, like, hey, we're only playing 2 of our top 4 guys in every game because we're just going to conserve them for the playoffs. So you can, sometimes moving early makes it smarter to just get on it, get on the process.
All right, let's go here. The Pacers, who've been pretty banged up, they add big man Moses Brown to their squad. Now, I did see that Miles Turner is supposed to be returning to action tomorrow. He's been dealing with a calf issue, so he should be back in action tomorrow. But we've seen this team deal with a number of injuries, and so now they add a center. Is he the best center out there? No, there's a reason why he's still out there on the market, but he certainly offers plenty of size, can give you that typical center production, and so they're going to add just another big body to their team here.
Yeah, and this is a guy who's been around the NBA for years, so it's not like this is a complete unknown. Like teams kind of know what Moses Brown is. It's going to be, you plunk him near the rim on both ends and let him do what he does. In the G League, in 4 G League games so far, 18.5 points per game on 69.6% shooting. So clearly he's catching and dunking quite a bit in the G League. 13.8 rebounds per game, 7 defensive, 6.8 offensive. So getting on the glass there. 1.2 steals and 2.0 blocks per game. It's only 4 games. I'm not going to go like, oh my God, let's go crazy, with this. But Moses Brown's a more known quantity. They need bigs in a bad way. Like right now, they're just kind of getting by with guys. They started Enrique Freeman, who's a rookie on a 2-way deal last night, and he is a center because like more of his range and play. But he's like 6'8". So they started that him. Ben Shepherd's also out for the Pacers. Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith are both out on longer term injuries. I think Nembhard's due to be back in a week or so. Nesmith's probably at least another couple weeks. So it's a man, they've got a lot to sort through there in Indiana. But get Moses Brown in. This is going to be a non-guaranteed deal. Bobby Marks was all over that as part of the reporting. So this is another one of those pseudo 10-day deals where it's bring them in, see what it looks like, and then if we need to move off them, we can waive them and kind of go from there. The one thing with the Pacers, though, kind of just keep an eye on it. They're only $3.2 million under the luxury tax line before this signing. So you bring Brown in for the full season, you're going to be about $2 million-ish clear of the luxury tax line. Probably a little bit less than that, actually. Probably closer to like 1.5. That's not a lot of wiggle room. And this is a team that historically does not pay the tax. They've paid it, but very, very little and not very often. So just something to keep an eye on.
Okay, so that's something to watch for there. But it's a worthwhile addition. And again, like you said, he's a known. This is not. Let's see what this guy can do. Everybody knows what he can do at this point, and so the Pacers will add him to the team for the time being. We'll see.
Yeah, and that's what you need if you're the Pacers, right? Sure. You're trying to be good. You're trying to win games. You're trying to get into the playoffs. You want somebody you can go out there and be like, we know what his limitations are, but we know what he can do. Go out there and do it versus like, hey, let's do a total upside play and see, if this really pops. Because there's certainly guys I like better in the G League for something like that, but that's not where you're trying to go if you're Indiana. This one makes a lot more sense. Like if they'd also signed like a Bismack Biyombo type, or JaVale McGee. Again, known quantities, you know what they are. But Moses Brown, he's kind of doing his thing right now. Why not? Still young enough that maybe there's a little bit of developmental upside there, but it's just a good, smart roster filling signing for a team that needs big man depth.
Well, especially after they played. I don't know if you've seen what he's been doing lately, Keith. After they played Jakob Poeltl last night.
Yeah,
my goodness.
I watched him torch the Celtics for a career high, all on 5-foot hook shots, right outside the restricted area.
Like this guy's on a tear. Look, last 3 games: 25, 35, 30, 18 boards, 12 boards, 15 boards. He is absolutely killing it, and he's a guy that
against Boston from the floor. And I'm going to look it up. And let me see if I can do it. We've got a minute here to kill. So,
okay.
Yeah, let me go find the game. They played Saturday. I'm just going to pull up his shot chart because I bet it's hilarious. So
he's 29 for 37 in the last 2 games from the field. And he was 12 of 20 the game before that. The blocks, he's getting steals. And this is a guy that could also be on the trade market when we're talking about trade people. Like the Raptors might move. If I'm the Raptors right now, I am blasting this box score to the last 3 games to everyone in the NBA going, look how good he is. Look how good he is. Give us your first.
Yeah, let me see. I think I can get this here.
And the Raptors, they are I'll tell you what, the Raptors are tanking right. Because you look, so many other games, they've had some blowouts, of course, but a lot of close losses, losing by 4, losing in OT, losing by 2. Like that's the way to do it. And you've had a number of guys look really good. And so I think your trade options are going to be plentiful. Yeah. I mean, if you are going to tank, this is how you do it. This is the ideal way to do it. Lose a lot of games, but do it. Oh my gosh, that's the shot chart. It's literally all in the paint.
Yeah,
everything in the paint.
He missed one right at the rim. I think he missed the dunk. I think it got blocked. Then what were you doing shooting that one out by the free throw line? What was that for? Stick to what you do. And then he missed like one. I think he got stripped out just outside the restricted area. Yeah, but that's his shot chart from Saturday against the Celtics. So just it gives you a sense of just how good Jakob Poeltl was in that game. And it was funny because they said after yesterday's game, somebody was like, "Hey, you need to dunk more, like play with more force." And then he kind of said he's like himself. He came back and was like, "Yeah, he's like, I feel like I'm back to playing the way I did in college, like just very free. I'm getting a lot of touches. I'm getting to move the ball. I'm doing a lot of different stuff." And I think that's pretty cool. RJ Barrett, talk about an all-around tear for him too against Boston, his first career triple-double. I think he dropped 39 points last night. This Raptors team, as constructed with the guys out, they're bad. Don't get me wrong. Sure. But there is talent there. You get Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickly back with Barrett, with Poeltl. Okay. And then add another high pick to that mix. All right, let's go. I'm kind of excited about what that team could be in very short order. Like this is one that could turn it around within, I would say, a year or so.
Absolutely. They definitely could. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining the show. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, see ya and stay safe.